verse 9, probably key of it is the fact that God brought Daniel into a place of rest, right? Which is the same thing he was talking about in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 2. It was talking about the fact that the Israelites did not enter into rest, right? Because they did not mix the word with faith, right? They did not mix the word with faith. That's why they did not enter into rest, right? And what we've been doing in this series last week and this week is pretty much trying to learn how we can enter into God's rest, how we can enter into a place of favor and goodwill. And we've shared several things so far. Yesterday, we looked at Abraham as we began to emphasize on the need to give the word place. Today, we continue with Isaac, right? Isaac also is an example of someone that exalted the word of God, right? We see Isaac in Genesis chapter 26, right? Isaac and Abraham seem to just be a type of one another, almost like what happened to Abraham happened to Isaac, right? Abraham in the time of Hamid went into Egypt, right? He had to lie and all of that. And Isaac was about going to Egypt to repeat the same thing the father did. And God said, no, don't go. No, don't go. God is saying, don't go from a place of lack to a place of provision. I will take care of you, right? And that's one thing my belief is, right? Which is something the whole people didn't teach us well. Because as I came up in Christianity, what I seem to have met was that they taught us that when you come to serve God, that things will not be well with you, that you have to be poor to serve God. Right. And that drove a lot of us from trying to come into full-time ministry, because the example we saw 38 years ago as I came into Christianity was like you had to be poor to serve God. Being poor was serving God. Right. Obviously, we've gone to the other side of the extreme today where people are usurping God. Right. But there's a place of balance. Right. And God was saying to Isaac that, hey, I want to bless you where you are. You don't have to go somewhere else to get blessing. Your blessing is not dependent on your location. Your blessing is dependent on me, right? The key thing is that Isaac believed God, unlike a lot of us today. A lot of us will say, shut up, devil, that cannot be God, right? God is not limited as to where he will bless you. God can bless you wherever you are, wherever he wants you to be. Whether it's in the village, in the town, in London, in America, in Iran, Iraq, God is not limited. God is our source, right? It's not the country, it's not the government, it's not people, it's God. God is our source. And for as long as our eyes are upon God, we will come into a place of rest, right? For the Israelites, it wasn't as much as Canaan that was a promised land. It was God was bringing them to himself. It wasn't a physical land. It was the entry to God that they missed, because God is not limited by location, right? And we saw that in Genesis chapter 26, right? Isaac believed God, and because Isaac believed God, God prospered him. Right, begin to see the usage of that word from verse 12. It says, then Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year, not another year, the same year of the famine, 100-fold. God was able to prosper him in the midst of famine, in the midst of lack. God differentiated him out. Remember, we used the word favor, is differentiated him out. God gave him a redemption. God caused him to prosper in the midst of lack, because the location is not the source of his blessing. God was, right? And God caused him to reap in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. Verse 13, the man began to prosper and continued prospering until he became very prosperous, right? If you see that kind of parallels John 10:10. Right? God did not just prosper him, he continued to in every God measure. Right? You see, again, we use the word glory. Glory means weightiness. When God blesses you, it cannot be small, because God is not a small God. It is differentiated that because it's shown in the person of God.